Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with knowledge partners NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, your host for the show, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this different setting. We're here in the lovely city of Nashville, Tennessee, and we're at Lipscomb University at the Dean Center for Corporate Governance and Integrity. And we want to thank Attorney Stevens for inviting us here to do a remote, and we like to do remotes occasionally so we can get out and meet with some of the sitting directors that are around the country. So welcome from Nashville. And today we're going to be talking about important skill sets to be an effective lead director. And joining me here from Nashville is Darrell Freeman, who's the lead director for AAC Holdings, Inc., and he's also the executive chairman of Zycron, Inc., a company he founded in 1991. Welcome, Darrell.
TK, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, the first thing we want to do is maybe educate the audience a little bit on what AAC Holdings is. So why don't you tell us what it is and what they do?
Sure. American Addiction Centers is a company that provides substance abuse services to help people get over their addictions. We're establishing a national brand that will raise the level of care for folks who have substance abuse problems. And so we believe that every person with a substance abuse problem should be able to come to a facility that has the best clinical services. And so we're raising the bar and setting some standards in that space.
Yeah, I sort of wish that it wasn't a growth business.
Yes.
but I'm afraid that it is a growth business, so it sounds like there's a clear responsibility out there for the company.
Yes, TK, the great thing about American Addiction Centers is we care about the people that we service. We believe that we're helping to save lives. And so for us, it's not just about building a company, it's about helping people overcome addictions and saving lives. And so there's an epidemic around the country with increased drug usage, and we want to be a part of that solution to help folks overcome those addictions. But it's a passion for our company.
Yeah, well, it's not only saving lives, it's also saving families. So
yes.
Certainly that's the kind of organization that
yes.
would be proud to be a part of. So you're the lead director.
Yes.
Okay, everybody knows in a public company, typically that means that the chairman's role or title is also with the CEO.
Yes.
So that means that you have the responsibility for a certain level of board leadership. So tell us a little bit about what you see as your sort of major responsibilities as a lead director for AAC.
Well, the lead director is a unique position in that your job is to help manage the board. Your job is to help set strategy and direction. But more importantly, TK, is to establish the culture of the board, establishing a culture of transparency, a culture of openness, a culture that allows people to make statements and ask questions knowing that they're not going to be looked upon in a bad light. And so at AAC, we're establishing an open culture for the board to ask those tough questions of the CEO and to make sure that when the CEO comes to the table with some great ideas, even though they're great, we still have questions about them, that everybody can feel comfortable with asking those questions. So it's about openness, transparency, and having the right culture, and inviting friction, if you will, into the boardroom. Because I think sometimes in companies, people are afraid to ask questions. People don't want to have confrontation. But as a lead director, I believe one of my roles is to establish that culture, that people of openness and transparency, that people can ask tough questions.
Yeah, and there's different tones of confrontation.
Yes.
You're trying to establish this tone
Yes.
that, yes, you can ask questions. Maybe confrontation might not even be the right word, but you're trying to make sure that people are comfortable to ask probing questions
Right.
without being held, ostracized in some way.
Right. And so I think that's important in any organization, having the right tone and the right culture. I think when you see businesses fail, particularly corporate companies that fail, it was the absence of board leadership, the absence of having the right culture to ask the questions, because oftentimes the board members know that something's going wrong, but they're afraid to speak up. And so as a lead director, you want to set the culture that allows questions to come in and to be free-flowing in the meetings. And so oftentimes it makes for tough meetings. It makes for tough meetings for the board members, it makes for tough meetings for the CEO, but the outcome is what we're looking at. How do we make this company better? And so asking tough questions and having some friction in the room allows for the company to become better and for the CEO to become better.
So I assume in addition to setting all these foundational things, you've got responsibility of leading the executive sessions, you're interacting with the CEO and
Yes.
the board, you're that mouthpiece that's going
Yes.
back and forth, you got board evaluations, all those things sort of fall into your list of responsibilities, I assume.
Right, and so executive sessions are sessions, as you know, without the CEO, without management, and then in those sessions, people who may have not felt comfortable with asking certain questions in the board meeting may ask those questions when the CEO is not present. And my job is to help facilitate how do we get those questions addressed in a meaningful way. How do I get those? How do I get the trust of the board members to tell me or to ask me the questions so that I can go be a conduit, if you will, between the board and the CEO and say, hey, this is something that's concerning. But having the trust of the CEO and the trust of the board to know that we're all working together as one team to make this company better.
Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion about the topic of board leadership. We on the show certainly feel passionate about that, and leadership in the sense of refreshing a board or what's board composition. Interestingly enough, we held a sister show called the Investors Board Performance Review and had the largest investors on the show, like Vanguard and proxy advisors like ISS,
Yes.
and activists like Tryon Partners. And it's interesting, all of them to a person said that the thing that they worry about most was board composition.
Yes.
Okay? So here you are as the lead director. So you have to worry about who the next director is in.
Yes.
Okay, balancing those skill sets. You have to take a look at whether their skill sets would let them be a replacement for one of the chairs. Right. Okay, so the responsibility has become much greater in what they call director succession.
Yes.
Okay, so talk a little bit about your philosophy related to that and sort of how you feel.
So TK, what we do is we have a chart of the skill sets of the current board, and then we also have a chart of the skill sets of what we need on the board, of what types of people that we need on the board. And so when we go out to look for a board member, we look at the skill sets that we're lacking in, and to address those skill sets, we're looking for a board member that has them. But more important than skill sets, and I hate to keep going back to this, but more important than skill sets, you want an individual that's going to be probing, one that's going to invite just a little bit of conflict, one that's not afraid to speak up. It's not that the board members of these organizations that have failed didn't have the right skill sets. They just didn't ask the questions. They may have known to ask the questions, but they did not ask the questions. And so, yes, skill sets are very important. I mean, we need people who understand finance. We need people to understand HR. We need people to understand the business. But we also need people that will ask the question. And oftentimes, companies fail because board members didn't ask the CEO the tough questions.
Yeah, well, I've always questioned people. You know, there's a big push now to make sure that your matrix that you're talking about is in your proxy. And, you know, I had on some guests, Doug Shaw, who's now with the conference board, and he was a former corporate secretary, and he said, TK, you know, I was in charge of making sure that what boxes got checked, and he said people were pretty liberal with their skills, you know.
Yes, of
somebody
course.
that was a financial expert might have been, you know, in the banking business a long time ago.
Maybe a bank teller.
Right, but so he sort of came to the note, the acknowledgement that, you know, if people want to see it, that's good, but that certainly isn't the foundation for doing the selection.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't have a financial expert, you better get one, but like he said, there's culture and personality issues.
Yes.
You want people to blend in, still be a pleasant skeptic,
Yes,
you
of
know,
course.
to ask questions. So, you know, that's evolving, and certainly the lead director, you know, there was a time when that was sort of more ceremonial
Right.
type of position. Well, that's not the case anymore.
Not anymore, and we're in the business of saving lives. And so we also want people with the skill sets, the willingness to ask the tough questions, but we also want people that have a passion for our business, a passion for helping people. I mean, what we do for our clients is vitally important for their survival, and we want to make sure that we have people that have a passion for helping people. So for us, it's not just about the bottom line.
Yeah.
For us, the bottom line also includes how many lives did we save today?
Yeah.
How many people, how many families did we help today? And so it's not just about shareholder value. It's about lives that we're trying to save.
Yeah. Well, you don't hear that much that somebody.
And that's why I love this company, because it's a blend of building shareholder value, but more importantly, saving lives.
Yeah.
And we believe that we're doing that on a day-to-day basis. And also in that space, we're one of the few companies that are doing clinical outcomes. So we're doing studies on how effective we are in our space, how effective we're being in treating our people. And
Yeah.
so I love the business, and I have a passion for it. But as a board member, if I go back to what we talked about initially, transparency, the right culture, all those things are important to what we do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you this last one to just rattle that off one more time, because I have a feeling it's coming again. But I wanted to ask you the 3 most critical skill sets that a lead director has to have. Okay.
Three most critical thinking is very important. It's very important. The willingness to ask the tough questions is very important. The skill set is very important. And I also think a passion for the business, a passion for doing the right thing is very important for board members. But we don't have a perfect board, but we also realize that we're going to get better every day. And so finding the right people to play that part on the boards is huge for us. But transparency is my big deal. Transparency and openness is my big deal.
Yeah.
And so we need people that understand that.
Well, Darrell, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here at the Dean Center, so appreciate that. And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.